Hello, once again, YouTube world and podcast listeners. This is another episode of Plugged In from YAA Electric. I hope everyone's having a beautiful day. Today, we're joined once again by another of our YAA auto experts, Justice. Good morning, Justice. Very early
Good
over on
morning.
the West Coast. What time is it there?
8 o'clock.
Rise and shine. Well,
So
thank you for
not
being
too early.
here. Here on the YouTube chat, we've got Neil, John, Mark, Susanna. The gang is with us today. It's great to see everyone. Our headline today: Stellantis is entering the EV space with billions of dollars and big plans. What is first on their calendar of EV domination? Apparently, it's a $2.5 billion electric vehicle factory being built in partnership with Samsung in Kokomo, Indiana. Stellantis already has a huge presence in Indiana. They've got engine component factories, all different kinds of factories in Indiana. Well, this will be their first electric vehicle dedicated factory in Indiana. This is pretty amazing. Once we get done talking about Stellantis's big plans, we're going to dive into some Tesla news, a Tesla study that's pretty interesting. Also, the Ford F-150 Lightning has made a surprise appearance in rural Texas, which is capital of everything trucks. We'll see what truck owners in rural Texas had to say about the F-150 Lightning Electric. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about the Nissan Aria and some strange plans for driving to the South Pole. You'll notice a modified Aria behind me if you're watching this on YouTube. I don't know how they're going to do it with a 265-mile range, but they're going to do it. We'll talk about it.
Really, the range is your concern when they say they're going to drive from North Pole to South Pole?
Oh, yeah,
I,
not like
I,
the
I
boat.
I think maybe a road might
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
bigger obstacle.
Well, maybe that's how they're going to do it. They're just going to float from pole to pole. You don't need range if you just float on a
I,
boat, right? Yeah, we'll figure it out. Good morning, Road King and Frank, Igor. It's great to see everyone. Talking more about Stellantis. I traditionally have not been a big fan of Stellantis brands. They just don't look all that great for me. I mean, I like Jeeps, but every time I see a Chrysler cruising down the road, I just think I'm glad I'm not sitting in the driver's seat. However, Stellantis has been kind of changing my perception of the brand with some of their latest EV concepts, particularly for me, the Chrysler Airflow concept. I'm sold on that one, at least as far as the specs they're claiming. But where are they going to build all these EVs? It turns out that they plan on building many of them in Indiana. This is going to be a partnership with Samsung, who is one of their major battery suppliers, but it's not their only major battery supplier. Just a few months ago, they announced a separate factory that they're building in Windsor, Ontario with LG Chem. Stellantis, who currently sells 0 fully electric EVs in the US, says that Chrysler as a brand will be 100% electric by just 2028. That's like 5.5 years. That's pretty fast. I'm not quite sure which models they plan on building in Indiana, but they definitely got some cards up their sleeve that they're going to be kind of trying to roll out pretty quickly here. Stellantis overall has a goal of 5 million EV sales by 2030. Right now, globally, they've got 34 electrified vehicles. So that includes fully electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, and they currently offer the fully electric vehicles in Europe, not in the US. I know that many are big fans of the plug-in version of the Jeep. I know there's a Jeep Wrangler 4xe. Justice, have you seen any of these or even driven any of these Jeep plug-in hybrids?
I have not seen any in person. I've
Me
helped
either.
many of our members look at them, but I have not seen any in person. I'm interested.
Yeah, so learning fast, healthy dose of skepticism. That is not
Uh,
possible. No way they can transition that fast.
I am I'm a huge EV person, and I agree that is a very ambitious timeline. I don't know how you can transition that fast and keep afloat.
They're talking about transitioning in, well, when it comes to Chrysler as a brand, just 5 years. For all of Stellantis, it's looking like it's going to happen pretty quickly, as quickly as they can find batteries, right? Because just yesterday, Stellantis' own CEO, Carlos Tavares, he kind of rained on the party. He said, and I quote, "The speed at which we are trying to move all together for the right reason, which is fixing the global warming issue, is so high that the supply chain and production capacities have no time to adjust." Well, yeah. He thinks that there will be an EV battery shortage by 2024.
Yeah, there has to be. We
Yeah.
can't make them fast enough right now. Like,
Yes.
where is this going to all come from if everyone is transitioning that fast?
And here at YAA, we keep a close tab on all of the latest supply shortages, new vehicle inventory, and things are not getting better still. It may be deep into 2023 before we even get to the other side of the automotive supply chain issues. I don't see how their plans are going to stay on track with all of this going on. Not to mention that most Americans cannot afford the average price of a new electric vehicle. Prices have got to come down. Not to mention the automakers have to be able to make them. And then if we say that they maybe want to make a profit on these EVs, battery prices are going to have to stay down, or at least not go up by 1,000%, right? That would be killing the industry. Battery prices themselves have not gone up 1,000%, but we've seen some of the raw materials involved in battery production temporarily spiking as various global conflicts have just thrown a wrench in the plans to bring these raw materials to EV production. I don't know what's going to happen. Justice, do you think there will be a single sub $30,000 EV in 2025? Right now, there's like two. I'm thinking the Nissan Leaf, and actually, that might be it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the other one? I know the Leaf.
I
think somebody will roll out with one.
GM. That's Mary Barra's claim to fame, is that they're gonna make EVs affordable. Do you think that's gonna happen?
Yeah, they'll roll out one leafy style cheap EV, one that's not very attractive with not very great specs, and they'll say we're solving the EV affordability issue, and then everything else will be super expensive.
Yeah, Zach and I were thinking about how either EVs are going to have to get more affordable, or everyone's going to have to make more money, or there's going to have to be even greater financial incentives from various levels of government and utility, etc., in order for EVs to really gain mass adoption like everyone says they're going to. I don't know if any of those three things are going to happen.
I think we'll see government money pumped in before we will see natural price reductions.
Yeah.
That is my guess. That is my guess.
And I can't help but wonder if the automakers know that, and they pay people a lot of money to study these things quite closely under the microscope, and maybe that's why they're going to keep the prices up, because they say, well, if it gets bad enough, the government will step in and offer more incentives. I'm not sure. We don't talk politics here, but it's definitely possible. We have a comment from Learning Fast. Good time to turn to the Aria. So the Nissan Aria is behind me, if you're watching on YouTube. Is it affordable? No, it's not, Learning Fast. Let's talk about the Nissan Aria. You can learn all about it on joinyaa.com. I did a deep dive into everything that we know about the Aria, which is arriving supposedly fall of 2022 with a 265 to 300 mile EPA rated range. That's decent range. Starting price, though, about $46,000, unless they bump it up because of inflation. But right now, starting price of $46,000 before incentives, but it reaches all the way up to $60,000, and many of the desirable trim options are going to be above $55,000. So it is not affordable. And having just come out of a Nissan Altima that was definitely a budget vehicle, I don't quite know how any Nissan could possibly cost this much. I mean, do they regret not putting the Infinity label on it? Can't help but wonder. It does get the tax credit.
Yeah.
Nissan, despite having success with the Nissan Leaf since 2011, is not that close to using up their tax credit allocations of 200,000 sales, but if the Aria is successful, I've seen estimates that sometime middle to late 2023 would be when Nissan hits their 200,000 sale cap. And then once that happens, there's a 1-year phase out period for the federal EV tax credit up to $7,500. So that means those who are banking on the federal EV tax credit to help make the Aria more affordable, they've got through at least early 2024 to take advantage of that. Yeah. Lone FGC in the chat says, sheesh, 46,000. Yes, indeed. That is my sentiment as well. That's expensive for a Nissan, right?
But affordable for an EV.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. The average transaction price for a new EV is 56,000, which is 10 to 11,000 more than the average transaction price for a new combustion vehicle. Considering the battery manufacturing costs and current supply chain issues, not to mention that automakers are still selling every EV they can make and sell at that price. They're still selling them. It's not surprising, but it makes me sad. Every time that I show someone my Hyundai Ioniq 5, let them check it out, it's just heartwarming to see how interested they immediately get into the future of EVs, but it's just they're expensive. And
Yeah.
so many people who would go electric if they could cannot afford to yet. And I really hope that my car does not continue to be an appreciating asset. Right now, I saw an Ioniq 5 on Carvana listed with 8,000 miles already on it. It's an all-wheel drive limited, same color as mine, same spec as mine. Listed on Carvana for $65,000. That's about 10,000 more than I paid for mine. I hope that's not the future. I would rather see my car lose some value so that people can afford them on the used vehicle market. I know that's strange to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I test drove a Model S Plaid this last weekend. Had 4,600 miles on it, used. It was at CarMax, and I just drove it just to see what it was. But its list price was $107,000, which is much more than it would be new.
How much was it?
107,000.
Yeah. Nope. Nope.
And I'm just like, why?
I hope you drove it carefully.
If at $107,000, if you can afford that car, you're probably not shopping at CarMax.
I've often wondered about this question that Frank has in the chat. Why is it so hard to build inexpensive and attractive? For $44,000, you can get an entry-level Ioniq 5. That to me is quite attractive. That's about as cheap as it gets, in my personal opinion, for the good-looking EVs. But I agree with you, Frank. Why is that so hard? I think because every time the design teams come up with something good-looking, although beauty is in the eye of the beholder, they put a higher price tag on it.
That's always been that.
Yeah.
That's always been that way. They want to push you into the higher bracket, but you need to have an incentive. Of course, the more expensive, you don't want the more expensive one to be the uglier one. That would be counterintuitive. So,
yes, indeed. Lone in the chat says, hopefully we can get some BYD or NIO made EVs in the US soon. Those are two Chinese-based brands. I believe BYD is based in China, right? I know NIO is. Both of those automakers are already selling. Well, not NIO. BYD is already selling in the US, but they're selling buses. They have quite a big public transportation market for electric buses in the US. NIO has recently expanded its US headquarters. Yeah, NIO already has a US headquarters. They're not currently selling any EVs, but it's pretty obvious that they're going to soon. Why haven't they already? Probably because of the successes of Tesla. They're probably paying lots of researchers to do an abundance of marketing research to see who's going to buy these Chinese-made EVs with the current hold that Tesla has on the US EV market. Once they feel comfortable to ship them over here and sell them for a lower price, I'm sure they will, but I am confident that it's Tesla's success that is so far holding them back.
I agree. I think they're trying to see where their market here is first, and gauge that, because it's going to be a different one, and they have the Chinese manufacturer thing to deal with, and there's an attitude in America about that, and they got to shift through that.
I love this comment from Matt. An affordable EV these days is a street legal golf cart, and even those average 14,000. I recently told someone when they asked me what it's like to drive my Hyundai Ioniq 5, and I said it's like a really awesome golf cart, and they thought that was an insult to it. I like driving golf carts. Golf carts are fun, especially when it's got 320 horsepower. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some other news. The researchers over at Cambridge Mobile Telematics, so some arm of Cambridge's research in the engineering department, found that EV drivers drive a bit differently from combustion drivers in both some good ways and some bad ways. And it also matters by brand. Justice, can you fill us in on this interesting study that you shared with me?
Yeah, so they did a study of people who drive both EV and ICE vehicles in their homes. So it's not one person versus another; it's the same person one driving an ICE versus an EV. And they found that in Tesla, when the drivers drive their Tesla, they are 50% less likely to be involved in an accident than when driving their ICE vehicles. Now, the Porsche Taycan, they found the opposite to be true. So they were 55% more likely to be involved in an accident in their Porsche than in their ICE vehicle, which I think is interesting. I think, to me, it sort of speaks to the mentality of the drivers. I think Porsche Taycan, by large, they probably see it as more of a novelty, and they're trying it out and this new EV thing, and sure, and so they're a little more risk taking and whatever about it. Whereas the Tesla drivers see it as more of
A rolling
mm,
experiment?
rolling experiment. As a I try not to put us Tesla fanboys down, but it's kind of like a golem thing. You get into the Tesla and you're like, oh my precious,
Yeah.
and so you're going to really be taking care of that vehicle, and you're watching out, and your ICE vehicle, well, that's last century technology and whatever.
The,
You
stu-
just get used to it.
the study had another finding that I found fascinating, and this is actually the finding that they included in their research summary. So I have an academic background in biology and environmental science, and I'm used to reading research summaries. And what I found most intriguing was that they chose to highlight a statistic they found in which risk from acceleration or just slamming the pedal
Mm.
is what 150 to 300% higher with EVs.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me as an EV owner because of the instant torque. I mean, yeah, that's why I don't let just anyone drive my car, just toss them the keys and say, "Yeah, go to the grocery store." I would need to let them know that if you slam that pedal, you're going to go straight into a wall or whatever else is in front of you. That's just instant torque. But
Yeah.
they highlighted that in their research summary rather than the other statistics we've mentioned. So I don't know.
No, and part of that is because you can kind of
Yeah,
situation, I think, too. So
I
yeah,
have fun with my car.
when you have that EV and you're coming off a stop sign, or for me, especially merging onto the freeway, you better believe I'm at full freeway speed in a couple seconds there, well before I'm on the freeway, because I can, because it's there and it's available. So you know, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I am heavy on that accelerator myself.
And Justice, I believe you test drove the Hyundai Ioniq 5 recently.
I did.
What did you think about it, and how does it compare to the Model Ys that you've driven in the past?
So I sat in it at the LA Auto Show, and it was fine. I really enjoyed it, but it was just another. I sat in everything. When I test drove it uh, this last weekend, I was a lot more impressed by it. It is very, very. It drives really, really nice. Definitely moved it way up in my scope of things. Versus the Y, yeah, I mean, it is. When you figure price into it, the Ionic 5 is a much better buy, I think. Um, and I love Teslas, but uh, it was it was such a smooth drive. It was a good mix of old and new feel. I like everything was new, obviously, but it sort of had some of that old world styling. It was a good transition vehicle, whereas Teslas are very different. You get in them, and it's a different world than what you're used to, and it takes some adjustment. And the Ioniq 5, I thought, is a wonderful bridge vehicle. You get everything you need out of an EV and the comfort that you're used to.
I was really impressed with the ride quality of the Ioniq 5. The Model Y does drive a bit more sporty, definitely a little better around the corners. However, the Ioniq 5, it still qualifies for the tax credits, and I'll admit I'm an example of tax credits making a difference. If, let's say, the Model Y still was listed for 60,000, now it's 62.9, so let's call it 64,000 with destination fees, right? But if the Model Y was still on sale for 60,000 and the Ioniq 5 was 56,000, both had the tax credit or neither had the tax credit, I probably would have gone with the Model Y because of the supercharger network. I travel enough to
Yeah,
value that. But the tax credit kind of did it for me, and I went with the Ioniq 5. I don't regret it. I love that smooth ride, minimal road noise. It does feel like a living room inside. We have a viewer in the chat asking if I test drove the EV6, which is the Hyundai Ioniq 5's eGMP platform sibling from Kia. I did not because I could not find one to test drive back when I was looking in March and early April. Couldn't find one. I considered it, but I had my wife take a look at images of both, and she said, go with the Ioniq 5. She didn't really like how the EV6 looked. The EV6 has slightly better range. It's more aerodynamic, and I hear that it is got better handling if you're into going around the racetrack occasionally. But of course, it's not a race car, so they're both around the same price point. I believe the EV6 starts about 1,000 less than the Ioniq 5. Good question. It's interesting how polarizing Tesla's minimalism is among drivers. I used to be 100% for that Tesla minimalism. Now I'm still a fan of minimalism, but I've kind of enjoyed the buttons that I have in my Ioniq 5. Justice, do you still feel the
yeah.
same way about minimalism as you did,
I
let's say, years ago?
no, so I was the opposite.
Oh,
I hated. I liked the Model S. I thought that was great, and it was a good balance and stuff. And when the three came out and they went full minimalism, they shrank the screen and they turned it sideways and did all that and got rid of the gauge cluster. I was the one against it. I hated it. And then I drove it, and within a test drive time frame, you get used to it. Like it takes a very, very small amount of time to get used to. I thought looking, to my right to see my speed and everything instead of just directly in front of me was going to be such a hassle and a pain. And I don't want to be looking over there. I just want to glance real quick. All that goes away within your test drive period. So you get used to it, and then I've really come to like it a lot. But I see people's point of view because I started off in the other one. That the features and functions that you're used to, you know, I get the let's take it one step at a time, where Tesla is trying to take 10 steps at a time in this route. So it's not for everyone. I get that. I was actually just talking to Phil and Mario yesterday too about the exterior looks of it, and they're talking about all the other EVs and how good they look, and Tesla's just yeah, 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 which I think is funny because when Teslas first came out, everyone's like, oh, it looks weird, it's so unusual, like it's ugly. I want just a normal looking car. And now it's like, oh, Tesla, that's boring. We've all seen that. I like this styling over here and this style. So Tesla really ramped up a lot in their people getting used to those looks very,
Yeah.
very quick. And now people are calling them boring.
And what's fascinating to me is that the Ioniq 5, the styling of the Ioniq 5 may just be the closest thing to a Cybertruck on the road. You know, it's not a truck, but it's got that
Just,
retro futuristic styling. Sorry to do that
just
to you.
stab me in the heart. Just keep stabbing me in the heart.
It'll happen someday. Someday. I'll buy you a
Someday.
Hot Wheels Cybertruck.
That may be the closest I'll be able to get.
I wanted to bring this up. It looks like Tesla's have a new over-the-air update, which Tesla has pioneered, and other automakers are now copycatting with good reason. It's a great way to update a vehicle remotely. Update 2022.16.0.2. It looks like one of the features of this latest Tesla update is navigation energy prediction. This is something I wish I had in my Ioniq 5. It says, it is energy prediction for your route that is improved by incorporating forecasted crosswinds, headwinds, humidity, that one blew my mind, and ambient temperature when using online navigation. Humidity is literally the water content of the air, so it makes sense from a physics perspective that pushing through humid air would require more energy than pushing through dry air. But my mind is blown that Tesla has found a way to calculate a coefficient for that and throw it into their navigation range estimates. That's a testament to how far ahead Tesla is from the competition. Sure, General Motors, Ford, Hyundai, Kia, they may come out of nowhere with some crazy, crazy technology, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
It's going to be hard because Tesla, people talk all the time, Tesla's a battery company, they're a car company, and I am a firm believer that Tesla is a data company. That's really what they are. All their cars collect so much data all the time, and they're always compiling it, and they're always using it to roll out things like these updates that are just mind-blowing on how much they can do. And the more Teslas that are out there and the more data that's being collected, the more all these other OEMs are going to have a really, really hard time catching up to that because they don't have the data that Tesla does.
Drop us your questions in the chat. And if you're listening on the podcast, please send me questions at justin@joinyaa.com, or better yet, join the YAA community forum, where we have a whole electric vehicle forum, thousands of members on there, lots of conversations. But if you're watching this live, drop us questions in the chat. We've got about 10 more minutes we're going to do. While you guys get to work on that, I want to talk about Top Gear. So Top Gear is a very, very well-known automotive media from the UK. They flew to Texas specifically to ask truck owners what they think about the F-150 Lightning. They didn't go to like Dallas, which is the area I'm originally from, or Houston. They went to rural central Texas, basically the truck capital of America, in my opinion. And they brought an F-150 Lightning Pro. They drove it out there, showed them all the tricks and gadgets, and asked them what they thought. The overwhelming consensus was that before they learned about the specs and capabilities of the F-150 Lightning Pro, there were not many fans for the electric F-150. They didn't just hate it for the sake of hating it. It sounded like they were more concerned about where would I charge it on a road trip. Having been through Central Texas many times myself, that's a valid concern. I bet there's still not a lot of chargers around there. And they wondered about range, things like that. Once they saw what it was capable of, everything from having a gigantic frunk with 2.6 kilowatts power output capacity from the frunk itself to, I don't know, there's so many gadgets, to Ford Intelligent Backup Power, which depending on power rationing of your house, it can power, the truck can power your house for up to 10 days or at least 3 days with a full power load. Payload.
And in Texas, you need that with all those
right.
power outages.
Yeah, I actually lived through the big one. Yep. Payload capacity of up to 10,000 pounds for the extended range battery. That was towing capacity. Payload is actually a bit less because of the weight of the batteries under the floor. Still, they were impressed with the truck once they learned what it's capable of. And I think this just shows that it's a real world example of how much public education still needs to be done about what it's like to live with an EV. Am I saying everyone should go out and buy an EV in 2022? No, because we'd be kind of screwed if that happens. First of all, it's hard to find EVs on dealer lots. The power grids would go into chaos if everyone was charging their EV at night, right? But I think it's worth learning for every driver in America and putting themselves in the shoes of an EV driver and seeing what it would be like to adopt that ownership experience. And that's exactly what Top Gear did in Central Texas. If you want to check that out on their YouTube channel, I think it's fascinating. Highly recommend. Learning Fast in the chat says, did you see the world record range attempt they did in the Lucid? Yes. I think it was the Kilowatts. The Kilowatts is a great YouTube channel all about EVs. They got 620 something miles out of one charge on the Lucid Air, but they were going about 30 miles per hour. Still, that's massive hypermiling. I wonder what I would get in my Ioniq 5 if I did that. Around town, I get an estimate of about 350 miles based on my kilowatt usage. I don't know. Worth thinking
Yeah,
about.
around town at 30 miles an hour. Yeah, you can get an awful lot of range out of that. I would like to see real world driving.
Yes.
So.
Yes, I find that around town I get about 4 miles per kilowatt hour in my Ioniq 5. I live in a very hilly area, some steep hills all around my town. So if I'm driving to Walmart, I get like 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour. If I'm driving from Walmart home, it's like 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour. It's all about those hills. If you drive on the highway over 50, do you get less mileage? Depending on the EV, certain electric motors have a optimal efficiency around 50 to 60 miles per hour. Justice, that's what I've seen. Have you seen that before?
Yeah, I was going to say it's about 55-ish.
So that's actually when you get the best mileage.
Yeah, that's when you get the best. I know here in California, when I drive down from Northern California to Southern California, I do, let's call it 70 for the sake of police that might be watching. And the range definitely decreases pretty noticeably the faster you get there. If I was to drive over 70, theoretically, let's say I drove 85 most of the way, purely in theory, I would see a very dramatic drop in my range if I were to drive that fast, and it would require an extra stop along the way.
Yeah, my dramatic drop has been over 75 miles per hour, which has only been in theory. But yeah, 75 miles per hour really takes a much bigger range hit than just 70 miles per hour. Now, it depends on how you travel, because if you like to stop every 2 hours for a short break like I do, I have a fast charging EV. I can stop every 2 hours for like 15, 20 minutes, charge up, continue driving at whatever speed I choose. I mean, safely, but it all depends on your driving preferences.
And your network. I can't go
Yep.
10 miles without a charger around me, so it's easy for me. But looking at some of the data of the other places, I was sort of blown away at the differences in some other states, and I see the pushback on that. Like, why would you want to go EV when there's less EVs in your entire charging stations in your entire state than there is in my city?
Yeah.
It's crazy to get my head around.
Yeah. Sometimes I go hang out at the closest Electrify America station just to see other EVs, just to see other EVs. I don't get to see them on a day-to-day basis like you do. I saw my first Kia EV6 by just being bored. I was like, I'm going to go hang out at Electrify America, get some free electrons. And I saw an EV6, and I think it looks a lot better in person than it does in pictures.
Yeah, we saw it at the LA Auto Show. I enjoyed it. I didn't get to test drive it either, but sitting in it, I like the EV6 as well.
I've still never seen a Lucid Air though. I would like to see one.
I have driven a Lucid Air. It is amazing. It
Do you
is
have to get
amazing.
insured for a test drive?
I didn't. I mean,
No.
I know someone who works there though, so I don't know if I got special treatment. I mean, I know I got special treatment because I got to test drive it, but they didn't make me insure it. I was just on their track, so.
We'll finish up the show today by talking about the Nissan Aria's drive from the North Pole to the South Pole, and then we'll call it a day. A beefed up all-wheel drive electric SUV from Nissan is going to go 16,800 miles, driven by British adventurer Chris Ramsey from somewhere near the North Pole all the way to the South Pole. I don't know how they're going to do this without just floating on a boat from the North to the South Pole. The Aria does come with E-Force all-wheel drive. Apparently that's going to help on South America, which sorry, not South America, Antarctica, which is literally going to be uninhabited, thousands of miles of ice. I don't know how they're going to do this. It says that they failed to mention how they're going to recharge the Nissan Aria in areas like the Arctic and Antarctica. I don't know how they're going to get that done. Helicopters, maybe? Just going to fly it around? I wish them the best of luck, though. I really do.
Yeah, good
I know
luck
that
to them. I'm curious to see how that goes.
I know that Rivian drove from the tip of South America all the way to at least the US, maybe up to Alaska, but it's been done. It's a good way to get some attention for the new electric vehicles. What does it do for practicality? I mean, not much. Maybe they could spend that money instead on a charging network.
I mean, I remember way back when Elon did it coast to coast in the original Roadster. That was before anyone knew who he was. He was just this crazy CEO of this electric car company, and he wanted to prove that you could do it. So, and then everyone seems to be expanding now from there. Oh, we can go even farther than Elon did.
Yeah. Instead of to Mars, it's going to be to, I don't know, what's next? Jupiter?
That would be hard to do, but
Thank you so much for joining me today, Justice. Everyone, please make sure you stop by the YAA Community Forum. Let us know what your thoughts and questions are about EVs. I really do take a hard look at all of your thoughts and comments so that we can incorporate what you want to know into the next episode of YAA's Plugged In. Look forward to seeing you all on Friday. Have a beautiful day, and hopefully you get to drive electric soon. Thank you, Justice.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.